Knees and toes.
Does shoulders have to do with anything?
Because of what you did to my bold prediction. Yes, I'm taking this too far, but I don't care. We're
The
going.
noise is great for those who are audio only.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into a special edition of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Today we have play-by-play broadcaster for the Georgia Swarm. Nick Klos is back with us. Nick, thanks for jumping on with us, and how was the long summer?
Of course, happy to be back. It's been good, just trying to keep busy, and then into the fall doing some different fall sports. Got basketball season starting now, so all around, but excited to be back doing lacrosse, one of my favorite sports, field and box, and get a second year at Georgia. So I'm just happy to be part of the NLL for another year, and excited about a very, very different new team.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it too, because it was a busiest off season for not just the Swarm but the league in general. But for the Swarm, Q, Bomberry, Thompson re-sign or sign elsewhere, I should say, and Q get traded. Rannigan retires. Miles Thompson, Oakes, Burns, and Capito are all still unsigned right now. They bring in Connor Kelly from the Q deal, and then Ben Trumbull and Nolan Byrne get drafted. If you could grade this offseason as short as it was, what would you give them and why?
Yeah, and I think the grade part can be tough just because obviously we need to see how it works out. So how can we really fully assess what they were able to do? But I think I would give, just to be fair overall, I think a B+ is good. I love the youth movement. We kind of saw it coming in a way with how many draft picks that were getting stacked up for Georgia. There were players who you just knew they were coming. So where were those spots going to come? And we were anticipating that, at least looking at the rosters and the contracts and everything of where all that was going to go. And so I'd say a B+ because, like you said, you got the Kelly trade, so sending Q over, some guys that don't get re-signed, but then you bring in Page, as a rookie. You got Byrne, Trumbull, who right now cracking those rosters, and then also you're seeing guys potentially step up in Benedict. Zach Miller, a guy I'll probably touch on while we talk. I'm really interested to see him because of he hasn't had a season since 2024, so that's another guy who you may have forgotten about on the roster that is back. Shane Jackson was kind of hurt beginning of last year, ended up turning it on late in the year, so I think they got the pieces that they need, and I'm really excited for the youth and how they're going to do. Caleb Benedict, I mentioned, will have that role step up, so it's a lot of change, so can't really fully predict how it's all going to go, but you get Dauber back in that as well, so you have enough continuity, I think, where it still feels like that core is there for the most part, but also branching out, bringing in young players, maybe some more speed as well, and I think it's an exciting time for Georgia and the Swarm, but I would say, B+ is probably where I'll go, and, that grade can go up or down once we get started.
Yeah, and I've been calling for this sort of change for a few years now with the core, and we mentioned it when we talked last year on the regular season finale that there could be this possible massive change coming up with all the youth, and you just look at the camp bodies. They had 14 first or second round picks in just the last 3 years in camp. Now, do you think there's any benefits to going full youth movement on both ends of the floor right away in the same year like we're seeing with Georgia?
I'd say if we're looking for the benefit of it, it's that growth, because we're talking about, all right, if we're being realistic, just Lyle Thompson, how many more years? Brett Cole, how many years? Shane Jackson, how many more years? McIntosh, you can go down it, Mike Manley. So how many more years are you getting of those guys? Do you want to get to a point where a team I'd use is like in the NHL world, the Pittsburgh Penguins, bad example now, they're doing really well, but that, are you going to stick with an aging core and kind of live with it? Or are you going to try and bring the youth in kind of like a Montreal, where you have Montreal Canadiens, if you're a hockey fan, all youth, and let them grow together and see what that turns into. And so I think the benefit of it is you're going to get these rookies and young guys, and like Jacob Hickey, Benedict, second year guys, 2023 draft picks, things like that. Jeff Henrik, a great young defender. You get all those guys now playing together, and maybe that new core is coming up together that will bring in that next wave, so Georgia can see sustained success and not drop to a cellar because you held on to that core a little too long, or just tried to play with the more veteran players and not embrace your young guys. So I think it's a benefit because the team will rise together, and then also you have great veteran pieces that can give so much insight to these guys. I mean, with Jordan McIntosh, a captain, he'll take a leadership role, able to help them out. I mentioned Jeff Henrick. He's a little closer to entering the league. He can be a good guy to kind of learn about it as they enter and everything. And, obviously Lyle Thompson, one of the best guys you can ever learn from. So I think it's great because you have the veterans to lead them, and you're not just a total team of fresh new faces, but you're also allowing those guys roster spots and opportunities to get on the floor and make something happen. And who knows? I mean, last year I remember Torrin Eccleston, no one knew anything about him, comes in and tears it up for a couple games. So you never know who's going to pop. And with the youth guys and the young guys, on both ends, we don't know which way that could go. But I think there are benefits to it in the long term. Now, we'll see, are those benefits going to be here in the 25-26 season?
Yeah, a little trial by fire there as well. Now, we will start like we always do with the offense. Last year, this team finished 6th in the league in scoring. However, you're losing guys like Bomberry and Q, who are massive. I mean, Q had all those game winners. I can't even count how many he had. But what do you think we should expect to see differently with this offense, besides the youth movement, maybe a different direction on how they go, maybe different guys they might lean on, that we have grown accustomed to these last few seasons?
Yeah, I'm bummed Q's not there because he gave me a lot of calls. I mean, right. You get those OT games and you just knew if he was coming over the top, it was like, all right, this might be it. But best of luck to him in Colorado and everything. And but yeah, you're right. It's totally different. I mentioned Shane Jackson was kind of more beat up at the beginning of the year, more so than I even knew at the time, and that's why he really picked up towards the end of the season. Also, Brett Cole was very impressive to me throughout that year, and I felt like he had a really solid year for him. And even though, later in his career, he's still getting better and improving. So you got those three key pieces of Thompson back, Shane Jackson, Cole, all know each other really well. There's those connections still. And then Caleb Benedict got a lot more burn as that year went on. So you're probably going to see him get put in, as we've talked about, and we'll talk about more, Nolan Byrne making the team a fantastic lefty. So that's a guy you're like, all right, I'm looking at him potentially to get involved as well. But I think we might see, and this is from a guy who's not a coach or anything, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think we might see it just a little more speed. I noticed last year Georgia would get caught on the outsides and then just each shot by the defense. And that's kind of what you could do to keep Georgia out, is just make them take outside shots and let your goalie and your defense, eat them and get some saves. So maybe we'll see a little more movement, a little more speed with those young guys getting to move around. Richie Connell is back. He has a lot of size as well, a big righty American, so still understanding the game, but played box in college as well. So I think it could be a little quicker just because you're getting young guys, fresh legs in there. But like you said, it's tough when you lose pieces like Brendan Bomberry and Andrew Q. You need to fill those slots, and you're counting on Caleb Benedict, Zach Miller, those guys to come back, as well as the rookies to step up and make those changes. So yeah, I think we're going to see a little more quickness, and I'm excited to see if Caleb Benedict's role expands a little bit, because like you said, with those losses, someone's got to fill. If you want to keep being a top 8, top 7 offensive team in the NLL. So you're going to have to see those spots get filled in, but I think it's exciting because they're going to be filled in by young new guys that bring in fresh skill sets to this Georgia roster. So it's definitely exciting, and I'm as excited as Buffalo fans, Georgia fans are to get to see it for the first time and really see how it's all looking and coming together. Obviously, we can only get so much out of camp and exhibitions and everything. So yeah, I'm interested myself to see how it differs. But I'm excited for the young guys to get in and see Richie get more time and Caleb get even more. And like I said, Zach Miller's a really interesting player as well. I remember him when he was at Denver years ago, and just he was so exciting. So I hope he can, maybe make up for that Bomberry spot. Because in points terms, I was looking at his points, the way he's produced in the past, Zach Miller, and the almost 2 full years he's gotten, he really hasn't had a full season. His point per game was close to kind of the pace of Brendan Bomberry, probably a little bit under. So I'm interested, maybe he can kind of fill that slot, but 2 big holes, obviously. And, you're hoping some guys that leave some question marks can step in and do big things for them.
Yeah, and it sounds like one of the pieces that did get brought in, Connor Kelly, at least from the start of the season, won't be with the team. You're hoping he's going to join at some point. And with him living in Florida and working in Florida, it's a little bit better commute than going all the way to Colorado. But
Definitely.
Lyle, Cole, and Jackson are the veterans there. What do you like from a guy like a Nolan Byrne, who we've touched on briefly, the 7th overall pick this last draft, that he's not going to be asked to step in and lead that left side? He's got 2 veteran pieces and also Zach Miller ahead of him where he can just learn and be a 3rd or 4th option over there. What do you like in his game that he might add a little bit nuances to this offense?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player, fantastic lefty. A kid is legit when he's renouncing his NCAA eligibility to go play pro box, and that he knows what he wants to do. He knows what he's really, really good at. He was at Lafayette College, but he's a box player, and he's a really, really good one, and had a great OJLL career and has continued it and was a Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. So he's such an exciting player, just great shot from that left side as well. You talking already about Q. That's the lefty you're thinking of. So now you got a top 10 pick in Byrne that brings in some similar skill sets and is just a natural offensive lefty that can help out and has guys like Shane Jackson who you can really pick their brain and kind of learn this level. As we know, you can play box in the summers and be really good, but not everyone's going to get up to this level and be ready for the toughness, the grit, how these guys are going to defend you. And, there are definitely defenders out there that are going to love to see the rookie lefty and going to try and make his life hell. But I think Byrne is a guy he's ready for that challenge. He's mature, and he's just a very, very talented guy from the left side. So with the skills he's already bringing in, and then that veteran leadership and maybe mentorship that he can get, if he's ready to, open his mind and just soak up that knowledge from them, and also the coaching staff and Eddie with all he can bring as well, I think he's a really exciting guy, and really excited to see how big his role is, because I think it's as big as he wants it to be, because of how good he is. If he can, be ready to go and play up to a high level, which he obviously has, being selected to the roster and being one of those few forwards that they got so far. And you mentioned Kelly right now, not in the mix. So, he's going to have possibly a big role, and I think he can, but we just have to wait and see. But you're 100% right. I think he's a guy to watch. He's a rookie to watch. This whole rookie class is for Georgia, just because of the picks they had, and they've been, like I said, in waiting a little bit. Carter Page, another guy who has kind of been waiting. He was 2024. So yeah, a lot of those rookies, and Byrne's going to be, I think, one to lead the way. Him and Trumbull, 2 top 10 from this past draft. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do.
Now, the engine continues to run through Lyle Thompson, I apologize, especially on the right-hand side. But beyond him, there's not much experience over there with Kelly out of the lineup. Is it Caleb Benedict, the former 19th overall pick in 2023, that you expect to step into that bigger role? Or do you think it's somebody else that's going to take that job and run with it? Because, with the lefties, you got 2 veteran pieces over there. With the righties, it's just one right now. They really need somebody to step up.
Yeah, exactly. And I do. I think it's probably Caleb Benedict right now. If you're just going off what you saw last year, taking it into this new season, Caleb really saw a lot more time. You were seeing him pop up on that right side a good amount next to Lyle. And he was a high pick in 2023, like you said, a 19th overall, so top 20. He was a very high potential player, and you're starting to see him now going into, I think, year 2, because he was a rookie last
missed
year.
His whole rookie year. Yeah,
he already saw some time and his minutes go up and more trust on the floor. So I'd expect from year 1 to year 2 that confidence go up, but also possibly the trust of the coaching staff in him to continue increasing as well. So I think between those two things, we'll probably see him be a little bit more of a factor with just that trend we saw. And also, he's a familiar face for the coaching staff. He's a guy who's been in the system in the offense that Eddie and Lyle have been doing, and he's played next to Lyle, so he brings that familiarity between them as well. So I think he's great to kind of fit in on that right side. And yeah, even though that's the thing, even if you're not looking at rookies for this Georgia offense, you're looking at some second-year guys. So second, third-year guys as well. So it is a lot of young players. So you don't know fully what you're going to get from Caleb Benedict, but you know a little more than you do with Byrne or the other guys. So with that, I think we'll definitely see him a bit more, and I'm really excited to see his confidence level and how that switches from year 1 to year 2. I remember him getting his first goal in his rookie year, and then it just increasing from there and the confidence growing from there, and interested to see what that can be now in year 2 after a full year, full off season, seeing this caliber, the level of defenders, all those things. So I'm excited to see him get in on that right side, but obviously with other names as well. I've already talked about Zach Miller coming in, and different guys. Obviously the left side all shirred up, the right with the little more question marks, but Benedict will definitely be exciting.
Now, the last one in terms of the offense for me, who is that X factor that you think will surprise people with his success this year? And it could be a guy we already mentioned or somebody we haven't yet.
Yeah, I want to say probably Cole, just because him at the end of last year, you were seeing the multi-goal. I think it was a multi-goal game streak he had, a goal streak he had. He was just effective. And every game, if Georgia was gonna win, he was gonna be heavily involved. Just with, you're trying to take away Lyle Thompson, you also have Shane Jackson, you also at the time had Andrew Q. There's a lot of guys you got to mark up on that offense. Cole, I think, was able to use that, and also just being an exceptional lacrosse player as well, has the skills to fill it up, and doing it last year really well. This year, probably he's going to be a guy asked to step up. I think everyone's probably going to be asked to step up except for like Lyle Thompson, and even him, he'll probably tell himself he needs to step up because of how good we know he can be even later into his career. So I'm excited to see what Brett Cole can do, and just what he takes from last year to this year, because with the point production holes, I guess, that were left, gives him an opportunity to step up and be an even bigger part of an offense that I think he was already a pretty key role.
Now, you are headed into year 2 behind the mic for the Swarm. Talk a little bit about how your first year went and what you can kind of expect for us to hear in year 2 from you and the crew behind the mic.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm excited to come back for year 2 and everything. And our crew a little different. We have a new sideline named Jack Sadegan. Lauren Hoffman decided to finish up after 4 years, and we're excited for her and going on to new things. But so the crew will look a tiny bit different. But Drew Petkoff and I will be back, and I'm just excited to kind of go from year 1 to year 2. Year 1, you're figuring it out. Like I said, with all these rookies, I was figuring it out and learning the league, learning the coaches, the guys, and everything. So it was just fun with Drew and I trying to figure that out and get to know each other and everything. And now we've obviously worked together so much and just been around each other that I'm excited for the relationships to grow and, the chemistry on air and everything. But also we just have a lot of fun and enjoy doing what we're doing. We get to watch lacrosse and be a part of this. And especially for me, someone who's grown up loving the game, field and box, getting to be back and call a great sport and a great professional league that just continues to grow and to just do great things. So I'm really excited, and I don't think there's going to be much different. We might get a little bit better, hopefully. That's the hope. So I think that'll be the biggest difference. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Some different names to learn. Not an exact replica roster from last year, but like I said, that can mean good things. So yeah, we're excited to get going. We don't go until I think December 13th because Georgia starts out on the road and everything. So we still got a bit to wait, but excited to get going again. And I'm excited to just watch some box lacrosse overall.
Now let's flip it to the defensive side of the ball. Jordan McIntosh is back. He was a UFA. He re-ups. He's back for another year wearing that C. How important is it to bring back your captain with how much change we've seen in this organization?
I think it's very crucial. I mean, if you look at this offseason and say, like, you add Lyle Thompson and Jordan McIntosh to those names, the heart of Georgia feels like it's gone. If you're looking at the Swarm and back to the Minnesota days for Jordan and everything. So that's the core, the heart, in my opinion. And Shane Jackson, I want to put him in that group as well. He's been around, for so long and been such a huge part of the Georgia lacrosse scene and the Georgia Swarm. So those guys are huge, that to get them back, and especially your captain and McIntosh, just the continuity, still feeling like, okay, this is still, the core that we're taking. This is the core that we knew we could, we can win a championship with, and this is the leadership group that is the right one. So I think you really needed to get a leader like McIntosh back to keep everyone together, because like I said, I feel like if you lose one of those guys in the offseason, a big identity piece gets lost in a way. And those two guys being around the organization, especially Jordan McIntosh, everything he's seen with this organization and how long he's been there, he really is a big part of that identity. And then you include his relationship with the coaching staff, with Eddie and everything. That is obviously a very important relationship to have as well, amongst the entire team and everything. So he's just such a great player, so sound, an amazing leader, does everything the right way. And he's a great defender and a guy you really can trust on the back end. And I think he's crucial to get him back, especially when you think of all the guys that headed out in the offseason. So it was huge to have him back and have his leadership now, especially, like I said, he's going to have some young guns on his team. So being that voice and showing them the way as well will definitely be important.
Yeah, that's a perfect transition, because the youth movement might be strong on the front end, but on the back end, it might be even stronger with Michael Grace, 3rd overall pick last year, Hickey, 8th in 2023, Trumbull just this last year. I mean, all three are highly drafted picks that you expect to play big roles for this team. Now, which guy of those three, or somebody else that I didn't mention, stands out the most to you that you feel has the best chance to be one of those new faces of the franchise out the back door for years to come?
I think I got to go with Hickey. What he was able to do end of last year, and just he popped in, and I remember he came in and just one day you're looking and there's a new number out there. And so you figure out who it is, and it's him, it's Jacob Hickey. He pops in late in the season, but you ask Eddie about him because he just popped off the floor. He was everywhere in his first couple games, and I had to ask Eddie, I'm like, all right, like, Tell me about him. What is bound? And he just loved him. He was going on about how good of a player he has been, and just coming in and plugging in to help the team late in the year, trying to make a playoff push. So he was so good to end last season, just getting his first tastes of the NLL. So to see him come into this year with more confidence and just more experience, I'm really excited to see what he does. And like you said, the defense overall has a lot of young pieces. So all those guys can come in and definitely make an impact and be a great player. But just what I've heard about Hickey from last year, I'm going to carry that into this year and say that he impresses again.
Yeah, like you said, that first game and then the games that followed, he just popped off the screen with his performance on the field. But another guy that was a big conversation over here on this podcast is Mike Manley. And he was a guy that I mentioned, if you're a Bandits fan, to keep an eye on, not just because of his working in New York State, but also he's an older vet. Does he want to go through this youth movement? But he re-ups in Georgia. What type of force is he on the back end after finishing second on the team in caused turnovers and block shots? Another guy that you can rely on back there, that you put him out and you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, toughness and grit in a human is Mike Manley, I think. You talked about it. I mean, caused turnovers and block shots. You're only going to get caused turnovers if you're, heavy on the hands, heavy on the hips, play sound defense, and, have the timing, but also the strength to check and get the ball out. These offensive players in the NLL are some of the best just stick handlers you got. They have hands like butter. It's hard to get that ball out. But, with Mike Manley, he's just so strong, so tough. He's going to bully you physically. Obviously a lot of other big guys too. So he goes up against people, but he will take on anyone, and he's tough as nails. And you see a fire in his eyes during these games, really. And I think he helps in the way he plays, but also the team in the attitude and the way he plays, because I just enjoy watching him play on the back end. And if you like the NLL, you like hockey, you probably like the tough, gritty sport. You like the guy that's going to, give a check or give a little cross check on the hip bone and, try and aggravate you. We see it all the time. So, Mike Manley is I think one of the great defenders at really just being a tough, hard-nosed defender and doing the dirty work, the things that your team needs, getting in front of shots. It's not fun to eat those. I was a field goalie, so I didn't block shots, but I did get hit by a ball a lot. It's not fun. That's not what, everyone wants to do, but someone's gotta, and he's that type of guy. He'll do what he needs to for his team, and great defender, and obviously showing some loyalty to Georgia and the Swarm and being willing to stick around, like you said, in a youth movement, which shows possibly some optimism in the movement, that it's not a step back or anything, that, it's just a different look.
Now, you got Brett Dobson between the pipes for year 4. I think it's safe to say, and I would assume he would also say it, I think he had a bit of a down year last year compared to what we have come to expect from him, both in goals against average and save percentage. They were both below his career averages. But how big will it be for him to get out to a hot start this season?
I mean, it's going to be huge. I think we talked about it last time when I was on here, how big of a part he was in that game and how big of a role he was going to play in that game for, I believe at that time, Georgia to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we knew he had to be a huge part in that game. And that's what Brett Dobson has to do for the Georgia Swarm if they, want to win a championship. He has to be consistent and has to be really good. And we know his ceiling is up there. His ceiling's up there. Now, where's that consistency? Can you find a middle between the ceiling and the floor, or hit the ceiling some days, hit the middle most of the time, rather than which one are we going to get, one or the other? So, yeah, I think he's always a crucial part. He'll always be one. If he can get out to a hot start, that'll really help the confidence grow of the team because, with those new faces, it's going to be different for the players, I'm sure. So we're going to find out how good this team is to start. And if Brett Dobson is really, really good, I think this team can be really, really good. And that's what you ask for as a goalie. You're the guy. You're the one. And I'm sure that's what Brett wants. He wants to be the guy. He's a great field goalie, great box goalie. Wherever that guy is, he tends to win. So he's gonna be ready. I know that he definitely, like you said, wants a better year than last year, and to see this Georgia team maybe clinch a playoff spot a little earlier and not end up falling down where they're battling at that last second. Because if you go back to last year, we started undefeated, I think 4-0. And then it skidded right down and you're in the middle of the pack. So a hot start's good, and you need a hot start because if you think about it, if they don't have that hot start, they're not a playoff team. So you need a good start, but I think the big priority this year will be consistency through it all. And if that can click, I think it would be a huge year for Brett Dobson because I think he's got goalie of the year caliber talent, but it just got to put the season together.
Yeah, and you kind of transition perfectly into this next one. If Dauber is in the running for goalie of the year in March and April, where do you think this team is in the standings?
Yeah, that is a tough one, but I feel like if you got a goalie who's up for goalie of the year, come playoff time, I feel like you got to be top 6, top 5, just with how good he would be playing. So that implies the defensive numbers are looking really good for Georgia, and when you have Shane Jackson, Cole, Thompson, those three there, and then also young talent to help around, I think you'll get enough offensively to probably get wins if Brett is really holding it down as hard as he would, as tight as he would to get goalie of the year. So I think you got to be probably a top 5 team if that were to happen. If not, then it's because Georgia's getting absolutely shelled and Brett's picking up a lot of saves and numbers.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly with Dobson. You see the ceiling, and as long as he's able to raise that floor closer to the ceiling, yep. I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy.
Exactly.
And I know you've been calling a ton of games in a bunch of different sports. Now, I've played basketball my entire life, but don't let that influence your answer here. Which sport is your favorite to do play-by-play with, and why?
Oh, you didn't even influence me, but I love basketball. I do. I really love doing basketball. I love fast-paced sports. I've always been, I played hockey all growing up, played lacrosse all growing up. I love basketball. Been a huge college basketball fan my entire life. So and when box lacrosse, and actually calling box lacrosse and calling basketball, not that different because of the pace of it, the movement, quick, in basketball you're running in transition, in box lacrosse you're running in transition. So those two are definitely, I think, two of my favorites, and I kind of hockey, basketball, and then lacrosse so similar in speed that I really enjoy calling all three of those. So I think probably the basketball lacrosse grouping is probably my favorite, and I get to do a lot of basketball and lacrosse, so that makes it a lot of fun. But calling basketball is just so much fun too. You're courtside, you're right there, and it's just a great time. So like I said, fast-paced, exciting, and it's the same thing with box lacrosse. Very fast-paced, very exciting. And so when you have those two things, it's usually sports I enjoy calling. So I'd say those two are definitely my favorite. It's got to be even on that one.
Yeah, I can see the basketball aspect because you're literally right there on the court getting all the emotion. So I fully agree with that one. Bandits Swarm, Saturday night in Bandit Land with the banner raising ceremony. Emotions for the Bandits and that arena are going to be amped up. Now, Buffalo's gone through these twice before. They're 2-0 in those experiences, so they kind of know how to feel this. But what do you want to see from the Swarm team in their first action since last year where they did lose in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's obviously going to be tough, like you said, celebrating once again for Buffalo. And yeah, I think you're used to it a little bit at this point, another one. But it's going to be interesting because of the differences for Georgia and the differences for Buffalo. Right. So it's exciting to see because it's not really the same matchup that we've gotten really the last couple of years, I would say. So it's exciting to kind of see, all right, what's Buffalo going to look like? What's Georgia going to look like? But as far as what you'd love to see from the Swarm is just offensively moving the ball well, finding the back of the net, being able to, beat a really good Buffalo defense and gain that offensive confidence early and see what the 2025, 26 Georgia Sworn offense is going to look like. And I'd love to see, get those young guys get in, how that offense is going to look. Are we going to see a Richie Connell a little more? Who's going to be the scratch that isn't, seeing the time and stuff like that? So those are things you're waiting to see. But obviously, just go out, play hard, a good defensive effort, have the first year guys, the rookie guys, hopefully can play a sound game, calm game, because obviously you're talking about the, raising the banner, that's emotional. Well, your first game ever in the NLL can be emotional and challenging. So I'm going to be really looking at those guys and kind of where they're at and how they're playing and if they're able to come in and make impacts. And I'll include like Caleb Benedict and Jacob Hickey in that. If they come in and it's like, okay, wow, second year guys, they're ready to go, then that will tell us a little bit more about what we're expecting this season. So I'm interested in seeing that. I'm going to be looking at the new pieces. All right, what are they really looking like here? Obviously, it's game one. You're not going to make any judgments, but that's what we're looking at, the differences here. And so you go to the back end, Dobson's back, so that's kind of consistent. The offense is 50-50 consistent, and then the defense, definitely a lot of youth, but a guy I haven't even mentioned is Adam Wiedemann, who I think is unbelievably crucial to this Georgia team. I mean, him and Jeff Henrick got injured last year and the losing streak started. So those two guys are just huge for this team. So having them back healthy, having a full healthy team, which we all love to see right at the start of a season. So I'm going to be really looking at the young guys and seeing what they're able to do against a really good Buffalo team, and that's another thing. First game's against Buffalo.
Yeah, welcome to the league.
Exactly.
So this first action together with this new unit is going to transpire Saturday night. How can the Swarm use this lack of film on their guys to their advantage in Buffalo Saturday night? Because not that we've seen it the last 2 years, but I'm thinking more of when Albany came in and they didn't have a ton of film on Simpson and Kurtz, and that affected Buffalo and they ended up losing that game. How can Georgia use this lack of film on some of their younger guys to their advantage?
Because of that, you don't fully know what to expect from some of these guys. Obviously, I mean, when you got guys like Byrne and Trumbull and Page coming in, high caliber draft prospects, other guys are going to know about them at least just on past experience, OJLL, whatever it may be. So there's a knowledge there, but like you said, there's not tape on it. So I think that's something actually that, Jacob Hickey comes in last year and you're like, who's this guy?
Right.
He's not an offensive guy you're scheming for, but it's who's this lengthy guy that's just striding down and is doing so great in transition on defense, whatever it is. So when you're not expecting that and you're, say, just for example, you're playing Georgia, you're game planning for Shane Jackson, Lyle Thompson, Cole, and now you have some other openings, but then you're thinking, all right, well, next guy up, Caleb Benedict, and then Zach Miller's a guy who's been around the NLL for a little bit. So then you get deeper in the roster, and it's less and less and less, and you have a guy like Byrne who's extremely talented and someone who's really exciting to the Georgia Swarm, and I think also just people who love box lacrosse in the NLL because, like I said, he was a guy who was ready to come to the NLL. He decided to not go back to school and said, I'm ready to play, makes the roster, he's ready. So you got a guy like that who has not seen any NLL time, does not have any tape on that, so he can play a little freer, or maybe they'll just lay off of him a little bit because, hey, this is the rookie. That's the young kid. We don't, they don't know much about him. Or like a Richie Connell, barely got in. Well, he doesn't have a lot of tape. He comes in, he's this big monster of a human. He could be someone who creates problems because you're not expecting his game. He's also American, creates some differences at times, just stuff like that. So I definitely think you're right that the lack of film could possibly play a factor. I think there's another part to it that, Eddie Camo's been in the league a long time. Coaches know coaches. How much is Eddie changing things up as well? Whereas, is Byrne going to just plug into that Q spot and it looks kind of similar, or what's going to happen? So we don't really fully know, but I agree. When you don't have that film, you see it in tons of sports, you can't prepare for them. So when you're preparing, you're definitely, obviously, you're circling Lyle Thompson, and then your focus goes from there. So how deep do you get down the depth chart, especially not knowing exactly who's going to be the first 5 on the floor or that main offensive unit that gets out there? So it should be interesting to see how that all plays out as we go into that first game and everything. If maybe Buffalo or even some other early teams in the year get a little caught off guard by some of the unknown names or just the names that weren't said as much a season ago, whether it was injury or whatever it may be.
Yeah, Matt Vance is going to be adding some pages to his little black book for some of these new players. But last year, this team struggled on the power play, ranking 12th. Likely going into in this matchup as the underdog. Special teams can make a massive difference to pull off the upset. How do you think, or how can they get out to a better start in that area of the game in this matchup, especially with Buffalo needing to adjust their style on the penalty kill with that new rule change?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be power play in general will be interesting. Obviously, you mentioned the rule change. That's something that everyone has to adjust to now, and could create some different numbers, or we could maybe see a pop on the power play. Who knows what to expect this year? I think that goes a little bit back to Shane Jackson. He was beat up to start last year, and I think he's such a crucial piece of the power play for Georgia. If he's not at the top of his game, it makes the power play tougher for Georgia just because of what he does for it. And you'll see him creep behind at X to get some dump goals, something he's fantastic at, and you've seen so much time in his career. He's great at playing off the ball and finding openings, but also getting to the right spot, being there for Lyle or someone to hit him and puts it in. And I think on the power play, when it's so ball movement heavy, that's a big piece to have him able to move around, see those openings. And I don't know the specifics of, what he was dealing with last year. I just know he was pretty beat up, and then his numbers went up as the year went on and he was getting healthier. So just with that correlation last year, I think having him at full strength could really help the power play. And maybe some adjustments on the side of Eddie in that regard, as far as something that's way above my pay grade or knowledge. So I think that could definitely be something that's coming up, and I'm sure he was racking his mind all summer with how to improve those numbers and everything. But to make it simple, I think Shane will be a key part. And if it's true that last year he just was a little beat up and got better as the year went on as he got healthy, if he's healthy now, I think we should see better numbers.
So just 2 more for you here. For the Swarm to get the win, this needs to happen. What needs to happen?
I'm gonna go back to the last time I was on this show and say Brett Dobson has to have a great game. Just
he's
because
done it in the past. Yeah.
It seems like every time he sees Buffalo, that's what has to happen. It means Dobson has to have a great game, and he's lived up to it a couple times. So I think that's a key thing. But to just give something different, the offense has to click. To be simple, obviously you have to score goals to win, so that needs to happen. But with a different look and new players coming in and expecting more from a guy like Caleb Benedict and just expecting the numbers to be filled. Because when you think about it, you think about Andrew Q and Bomberry and the amount of goals, the amount of points that are now not on the roster. So when you have that, some spots are going to need to get filled, and you're going to need guys to step up. So that has to happen on the offensive end. We need to see, who are those other two spots, or that other spot on the left, and is Caleb Benedict going to be the main guy next to Lyle? Those types of things, are going to have to be figured out. And if Georgia beats Buffalo, then probably that offense clicked and those roles were, at least for the night, filled. That or Lyle Thompson goes insane. One of those.
And either are realistic possibilities, or
always
Buffalo,
is. You never know.
Or Buffalo gets goalied. It's happened in the past with Brett Dobson. Final question, and just like last year, it's going to be something completely unrelated to the guest in the sport. If you could replace yourself, or I should say, replace any person in a TV series, and yes, you can include the streaming services, who would it be and why?
Okay. So I was thinking about this a little bit. I'll go Ted Lasso.
It's a good one.
Because just like when you think about it, just if you want to go a solid good person, good life, fun, funny, entertaining, interesting, I think it checks a lot of boxes, and also like universally liked. So he's not doing anything wrong, at least. So I think that's good. Also, I love that show so much, and it's one of the best. So I think that's a good one to choose. Just overall, I was trying to think of a funny one. I could not think of one, but I think Ted Lasso is probably the best way to go.
I guess real quick, I don't want to keep it any longer than I have to. What are your thoughts on them bringing it back?
I love it.
Against it because it ended perfectly, or
I like it. I'm not picky either. So I'm like, oh, more of a show I like? Cool.
That's fair.
I'm not like, oh, it's the plot. You're ruining it. Like, it ended so perfect. It did end well. I mean, it was a great show. Amazing. But I'm happy to have more, I'm not going to complain about that.
Okay, I'm the same way. I love that they're bringing it back. I'm going to go with Kevin from The Office because, one, you don't have to do a ton of work. Very little is expected of you, and it seems like that workplace would be very fun. I mean, at times it would be a little bit stressful, but I feel like it would be fun and entertaining to get through a 9-to-5 shift.
I definitely think you'd be thoroughly entertained, and you'd get to make really good chili.
Oh yeah, then drop it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But Nick, thank you for joining us on the Buffalo Sports Collective again. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you and anything else you might want to plug for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, as far as Instagram, Nicholas.Klos and Nicholas underscore or Nicholas Klos, Klos for X or Twitter as well. But yeah, I post all the games I do. Like you said, lots of different sports. It is not just lacrosse, but once we get to spring, it's going to be a lot of lacrosse, box and field. So either one you're interested in, I'll be around.
All right, perfect. Thanks again for joining us on the BSC. Hope to talk to you down the road, and continued success with all the broadcasting you're doing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.
We'll be back Friday for our normal episode of preview, Bandits versus Swarm. We'll talk to you all then.